Welcome back to the CryptoWorld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and we are getting extremely close to seeing a brand new Bitcoin signal that we usually see just before another Bitcoin pullback. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment for both Bitcoin and Ethereum. And also Ethereum is currently still holding above an important level, which we could be in for a retest. But I'll be covering all of that and more later in this video, so definitely stick around. First of all, just giving you a quick update on the daily Bitcoin chart. And as you can see here, the price of Bitcoin has recently run into that horizontal level of resistance, which is coming into play at just underneath $22,000 per Bitcoin. But looking at the daily Bitcoin RSI, and as of recording this video, this is still currently in an uptrend, technically speaking, because we're seeing higher highs and higher lows. So as of right now, the daily Bitcoin RSI is still pointing towards continued choppy sideways price action, or perhaps slightly more bullish price action, like what we saw in the first quarter of this year, if we see the RSI start breaking into the top half of the RSI, so above 50. And of course, the important thing to watch out for when it comes to the daily Bitcoin RSI is to basically watch out for any bearish indications, such as lower highs or lower lows. Basically, if the daily Bitcoin RSI breaks below its ascending line of support, then that is usually a bearish signal for Bitcoin on the daily time frame. But because we haven't yet seen that as of right now, once again, we're still in this choppy sideways price range, in between roughly around 19,000 and 22,000. And taking a look at the Bollinger Bands indicator on the daily Bitcoin chart, we can see that we're still in that squeeze formation, which means the Bitcoin price is basically just coiling up ready for its next extremely volatile move, something like this, for example. And on average, when it comes to the daily Bitcoin chart, these squeeze formations in the Bollinger Bands indicator on average last for roughly around 2 weeks or so. Before then, we see the extremely volatile move, but of course, that is just an average, and sometimes we might see an outlier where we might end up seeing the extremely volatile move only 1 week into the squeeze formation, or perhaps 3 to 4 weeks into the squeeze formation. But it's usually roughly around that sort of time frame where I would be expecting an extremely volatile move. And a lot of people in the market, myself included, were potentially expecting that volatile move to take place around the new CPI data that came out a few days ago. But obviously that didn't end up happening. So looking at the next important event outside of the crypto charts that could potentially cause a volatile move in markets, not just Bitcoin, but in the stock market as well. And that important event that I'm talking about is, of course, the next Fed meeting that happened in less than 2 weeks from now, towards the end of this month. And in some of my recent videos that I've posted a few days ago, I talked about some likely scenarios around that Fed meeting and what the different outcomes of that Fed meeting could mean for markets. But as we get closer towards the Fed meeting towards the end of this month, I'll be sure to keep you updated on all of that in these videos. But anyway, zooming into the 12-hour Bitcoin chart, and we can see right here that the price of Bitcoin basically got almost a perfect rejection from this horizontal level of resistance that I haven't moved in a while now on the channel. And this level of resistance I've been saying is just below 22,000, but more specifically, it's sitting at around 21,700 is where I have it on this chart. So obviously that is the level that Bitcoin needs to flip into new support in order to head any higher, because you can clearly see just by looking at these previous candle wicks that we saw a little over a week ago, and also with the recent rejection from this same level of resistance, we can see that there's a lot of sell orders placed around that price. And so basically we'll need to see a bunch of Bitcoin buyers step in to actually buy up all of those sell orders placed around that level of resistance. And if there is enough buyers that step in here to basically dry up all of that liquidity on the sell side, then usually just on the other side of all of that sell liquidity, once that actually dries up, there's not much sell liquidity immediately on the other side, which is where we see those breakout moves where the price basically just pops to the upside, kind of like what Ethereum did recently over the past few days. But obviously, as of right now, this certainly has not happened, at least just yet. Right now, we still have a lot of sell orders around this level of resistance, which is why we're seeing yet another rejection from that level of resistance. And looking at some levels of support here, we have this ascending line of support coming into play at around $20,000 per Bitcoin, and anything lower than that, we have an important horizontal level of support sitting at around 19,000 approximately. But between now and that ascending line of support at around 20,000, we do have another short-term level of support sitting at roughly around 20,500 based on this 38.2% Fibonacci level, and also based on this previous bounce that we saw just back here. But with that being said, zooming into the 4-hour Bitcoin chart, and as you can see right here, the price of Bitcoin is currently trading back below this golden pocket. And by the way, that was coming into play at around 20.1k to 20.2k. And basically for the Bitcoin price to remain more bullish here in the shorter term, we need to quickly reclaim that golden pocket. Otherwise, And if we further confirm a break to the downside here, and especially if we confirm that golden pocket that I just mentioned as a new resistance again, then that would basically be a strong confirmation that the price action is flipping more bearish again in the shorter term, something like what we saw back here and back here. And so far, at the time of recording this video, we have seen one 4-hour candle close below this golden pocket, which is not really a good sign. But if we end up seeing this next 4-hour candle close, which is also a daily candle close, back below around 21,000, then that would not be a good sign for the immediate short term for Bitcoin, talking about the next few hours and days. And if we're looking at the price oscillators, specifically the RSI and the MACD, right now the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI hasn't yet confirmed a bearish flip, because technically at the time of recording this video, we're still seeing higher highs and higher lows. But with that being said, we're getting pretty close to potentially flipping more bearish here in the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI. So just keep an eye out for that. If we do start forming lower highs and lower lows, then that is the signal that we need to actually confirm more bearish price action in the shorter term, like back here once again. And another potential bearish signal that we're actually getting pretty close to, that is the one that I talked about in the intro of this video, which is a bearish cross in the 4-hour Bitcoin MACD. And right now, at the time of recording this video, we're basically seeing the bearish cross, but we haven't actually confirmed it just yet. We need to actually confirm it with a 4-hour candle close. And once again, the last couple times where we saw a bearish cross in the 4-hour Bitcoin MACD, that was simply a bearish signal for the Bitcoin price over the next few days or so. So right now, when it comes to the Bitcoin price in the immediate short term, I am remaining a little bit more cautious as we're getting closer towards some bearish signals. But once again, we haven't fully confirmed those bearish signals, at least just yet. And I want to make it clear that this is all talking about those short-term Bitcoin price trends, as in the trends that last anywhere between a few days up towards around 1 to 2 weeks. And obviously, if you want to find out about the larger trends in the Bitcoin price, you need to zoom out to larger timeframes, such as the daily timeframe. And right now, in the relative short term to the daily timeframe, once again, we're still in a neutral trend, chopping around sideways. We're not bullish or bearish in the somewhat shorter term relative to the daily timeframe. But of course, this is still technically within a larger downtrend on the daily time frame. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this right here is the daily Ethereum chart, looking at the daily Ethereum RSI, which is currently still more bullish than bearish. And in fact, this daily Ethereum RSI looks most similar to what we saw in the first quarter of this year, which was generally a little bit more of a bullish time than a bearish time, but it still occurred within a larger downtrend. So as I've been mentioning in recent videos, that is potentially the stage in the market that Ethereum is in as of right now, where technically speaking, we haven't confirmed a full-on reversal from this larger downtrend, because on the larger scale, we're technically still forming lower highs and lower lows. But once again, looking at the short to mid-term trend on the daily time frame for Ethereum, we're simply looking slightly more bullish than bearish, which once again is very similar to what we saw in the first quarter of this year, which was technically more bullish than bearish, just in that short to mid-term trend relative to the daily time frame. But it is important to mention that even during a phase in the market like that, where in that phase the price might be trending more bullish than bearish, there is still some short-term bearish price action that we end up seeing, which on smaller time frames like the 4-hour chart, for example, these fluctuations on the daily time frame are full-on downtrends and uptrends on the 4-hour chart, for example. But while we're looking at the daily Ethereum chart, taking a quick look at the Bollinger Bands on the daily Ethereum chart, which are right now going through a very small expansion process, which technically speaking is the first sign of a volatile move beginning to play out, but we haven't fully gone through that expansion process, kind of like what we saw back here, for example, which means it is very likely, according to this indicator, that there is still a lot of potential for continued volatility, talking about an extremely volatile move, something like what we saw back here roughly around a month ago, for example. And in order for the price of Ethereum to continue this volatile move to the upside, we need to see the price of Ethereum maintain above this previous level of resistance. And even better, if we end up seeing Ethereum flip it into new support, that would add extra confirmation for the bullish scenario here. And this level I'm talking about, by the way, in case you're new to the channel, is coming into play at around 1270 to 1280. And obviously, as you can see over the past few weeks, this has been extremely important resistance. We've seen multiple perfect rejections from that exact level of resistance. And then the moment we saw a breakout here, we basically saw the price of Ethereum quickly pop to the upside, as I just talked about earlier, because after so many tests of this level of resistance over the past few weeks, The buyers in the market wanting to buy Ethereum were basically drying up all of that liquidity on the sell side, which essentially weakens that level of resistance over time, and also the fact that this time round on this attempt, we actually had an Ethereum short squeeze going on, adding extra buying pressure. That was also what helped the price of Ethereum break above this level of resistance with that quick move to the upside. So now, like I was saying earlier, it is extremely important for Ethereum to hold above that level, and especially if we see a bounce from that level confirming new support, then in that case, it would become very likely for the price action to continue a short-term bullish trend at least. But for now, looking at the 4-hour Ethereum RSI, currently this is still sitting in overbought territories, which means we're due to see a little bit of a cool off here, whether that means a pullback or more choppy sideways price action in the short term, just something to actually reset the RSI, because yes, sideways price action can actually reset the RSI towards the 50 level. But in order for Ethereum to actually push any higher, we actually need to see some sort of cool off first to potentially cool off that RSI. Otherwise, if we continue on this push, then the room to the upside in the immediate short term is very limited according to the RSI, which is already overbought. And if we're looking at the 4-hour Ethereum MACD, this is a little further away from a potential bearish cross compared to the Bitcoin 4-hour MACD. But with that being said, the histogram is currently declining, showing a loss in bullish momentum in the immediate short term. And if this continues, obviously that will take us closer towards a bearish cross. And the closer we get towards that signal, the more likely we're due to see a bit of a pullback for Ethereum against the US dollar just in the shorter term. And obviously in the potential scenario that Ethereum actually breaks back below this important line sitting at around 1270 to 1280, if Ethereum does that with confirmation, then that would be a very bearish signal just in the short-term trends for Ethereum, and seeing something like that would likely trigger a continued short-term bearish trend for Ethereum, perhaps down towards around 1000 to 1050 where we have strong support. But for now, 1270 to 1280 is the main focus. And if you want to know some potential price targets to the upside for both Bitcoin and Ethereum, check out my last video that I posted yesterday on the channel. And if you want to maximize your profits in crypto, check out one of these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how to make profits if the price is going up or down, and the video in the bottom left shows you how to keep making money in choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that's everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.